Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, what if I did something completely unexpected? That little spark of curiosity is exactly what led me here. At an age where most people expect women to blend in, to play it safe, I decided to go bold. I colored my hair purple. Not just a faint tint, not a soft highlight, an unapologetic, vibrant shade of purple that turned heads the moment I walked out of the salon. And let me tell you, the reactions were absolutely wild. Some people gasped, some laughed, some whispered, and others looked at me as though I had stepped right off the runway. But underneath all the noise, something deeper happened. I felt alive again. I felt younger, braver, and freer than I had in years. This wasn't just about hair dye. It was about reclaiming confidence after 60, showing myself and the world that beauty, style, and self-expression have no expiration date. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Purple hair? At your age? Isn't that too much? But here's the truth. Playing it safe can age us faster than time itself. The right hairstyle, the right color, can instantly transform how others see us and, more importantly, how we see ourselves. Purple, in particular, carries this mix of mystery, elegance, and creativity that makes you stand out without even trying. It's not about looking younger for the sake of vanity. It's about embracing your individuality, breaking free from stereotypes, and showing the world you're still evolving. The best part? I discovered that one bold decision can change not just your look, but also the way people treat you. From my family's surprise, to strangers stopping me in cafes, to the way I carried myself with fresh confidence, this journey opened my eyes to just how powerful self-expression can be at any age. It's like wearing a crown you didn't even know you deserved. So in this video, I'm taking you with me through the entire experience. I'll share the doubts I had, the laughter from my loved ones, the stares from strangers, and the unexpected empowerment I gained along the way. If you've ever felt stuck in a routine, if you've ever wondered whether it's too late to reinvent yourself, this story might be exactly the push you need. Because coloring my hair purple wasn't just a style choice, it was a life choice. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see why daring to be bold after 60 might just be the most youthful, liberating decision you could ever make. It all began on a quiet afternoon when I caught my reflection in the mirror. My hair, colored in the same safe shade of brown for years, looked tired, almost invisible. It wasn't that I disliked myself, but I realized I had been playing small, holding back, choosing acceptable instead of remarkable. And at that moment, a question whispered in my mind. What if I did something radical? What if I stopped hiding behind safe choices? That's when the color purple entered my imagination. Purple is not just a shade, it's a statement. It has long been associated with royalty, creativity, and mystery. It's bold without being brash, elegant without being predictable. For me, it symbolized freedom. Freedom from what others expected of me. Freedom to step into a new chapter of my life, one where I didn't apologize for being visible. Of course, the idea was terrifying. I could already hear the voices in my head. You're too old for this. People will laugh. But another voice rose louder. If not now, then when? Life after 60 is not the end. It's the perfect time to claim the colors you've always been afraid to wear. And so, I booked the salon appointment with trembling hands but an excited heart. The moment that dye touched my hair, I felt a rush of energy. Watching the old, familiar tones fade away and the deep, playful purple take their place was like shedding a skin I had outgrown. I wasn't just coloring my hair, I was painting a new version of myself. And as I stared into the mirror afterward, I didn't see a woman clinging to youth. I saw a woman stepping boldly into her power, a woman saying yes to joy, yes to creativity, yes to life. But of course, the real test came when I walked out of that salon. Because the boldest decisions don't just live in the mirror, they live in how the world reacts to them. When I first walked through the front door with my new purple hair, I could feel the silence before anyone even spoke. My husband looked up from his newspaper, blinked twice, and then simply said, "Well, that's different." My daughter burst out laughing, not in a cruel way, but in that surprised, can't believe you did it way. And my granddaughter, she clapped her little hands and shouted, "Grandma, you look like a fairy!" The mix of reactions was priceless. Some family members thought I was brave, others thought I was a little crazy, and a few just didn't know what to say at all. My son shook his head and muttered, "Only you, Mom." But here's the thing, every reaction, whether it was shock or admiration, reminded me that I had taken a step out of the ordinary. I wasn't blending into the background anymore. Of course, not everyone was instantly supportive. One relative gently suggested that maybe a softer color would have been more appropriate for my age. But instead of shrinking back, I smiled and replied, "Maybe appropriate isn't what I'm going for anymore." That simple answer felt liberating. What surprised me most was how quickly my family's curiosity turned into admiration. My daughter wanted to know the exact shade I chose and whether she could try it herself. My granddaughter insisted on taking selfies with me and said she wanted purple hair when she grows up. Even my husband, after a day of quiet observation, admitted, "It actually suits you. It makes you look happy." That word, happy, was the most important reaction of all. Because beyond the laughter, the shock, and the teasing, what my family really saw was a spark they hadn't noticed in me for a while. And in their own way, they were grateful for it. But stepping outside of family walls was a whole new story. If my loved ones had mixed feelings, I could only imagine how strangers would react to a 60-something woman strolling into the world with bold purple hair. The first real test came the day after my transformation, when I decided to run a few errands. As I stepped into the grocery store, I could feel eyes turning toward me, not in a harsh way, more like curiosity mixed with a hint of surprise. A woman about my age glanced at me twice, smiled softly, and then leaned over to say, "I wish I had the courage to do that." That single comment lit me up inside because it wasn't about the hair, it was about what the hair represented. Later, while waiting in line at the coffee shop, a young barista with a nose ring and teal-colored hair gave me a huge grin. "Your hair is amazing," she said. "It makes you look so confident." I laughed and told her, "Confidence is a work in progress." But the truth is, her words stuck with me all day. To be admired not just for looking good for my age, but for radiating confidence. It was the kind of compliment that goes straight to the soul. Not every reaction was positive, of course. A man gave me a puzzled look as though he couldn't quite figure me out. Another woman whispered something to her friend, both of them shaking their heads. But here's the thing, none of it hurt me. For the first time in years, I felt untouchable by judgment. My hair wasn't a disguise, it was a declaration. The most unexpected encounter came at the park. A teenager skateboarded past me, stopped, and circled back. "Cool hair," he said, giving me a thumbs up before rolling away. I stood there smiling, realizing how strange and wonderful it was that a bold choice connected me to people across generations, from kids to young adults, and even my peers who secretly admired it. Walking home that day, I realized that strangers weren't just seeing purple hair, they were seeing a woman refusing to fade into the background. That was more powerful than I ever imagined. But as much as strangers' reactions shaped me, the biggest transformation wasn't in how others saw me. It was in how I began to see myself. Confidence is a funny thing. It doesn't always come from the big milestones. Sometimes it's sparked by something as simple as hair dye. When I caught my reflection after a week of living with my purple hair, I noticed a lightness in my step, a new posture in my shoulders. I wasn't hiding anymore. For years, I had chosen hairstyles that were neat, safe, and polite, styles that allowed me to slip through life unnoticed. But suddenly, with one bold decision, I was impossible to ignore. And instead of shrinking away from that spotlight, I found myself standing taller beneath it. I began smiling at people more, not because I was fishing for compliments, but because I genuinely felt lighter inside. Each time I saw my reflection in shop windows or mirrors, I didn't see a woman worried about age. I saw someone playful, curious, and alive. That shift was profound because confidence after 60 is not about pretending to be younger. It's about embracing every year you've lived and still daring to express yourself with courage. One of the most beautiful changes was in how I spoke. I noticed my voice sounded firmer, my laughter freer. Even when people looked at me with surprise or judgment, I felt no need to apologize. I realized that confidence isn't built by waiting for approval. It's built by living authentically, no matter who's watching. And then there was the ripple effect. With my confidence lifted, I found myself reaching for clothes in my closet that I hadn't dared to wear before. Bright scarves, bold jewelry, statement jackets. My hair gave me permission to step out of the beige box I had quietly settled into. It was as if my reflection whispered, "If you can pull off purple hair, what else are you brave enough to try?" That question lingered in my mind and soon transformed into action. Because once your confidence begins to grow, your sense of style naturally wants to grow with it. Once my confidence began to bloom, I noticed something else shifting. My wardrobe. Suddenly, I wasn't content with blending in. The purple hair seemed to demand more from me. It whispered, "Don't stop here. Show the world who you are." So I opened my closet with fresh eyes and started experimenting in ways I hadn't dared in years. I discovered that certain colors made my new hair sing. Crisp whites, soft pastels, and deep jewel tones all seemed to dance in harmony with the purple. A simple white blouse that once felt plain now looked chic, almost edgy, when paired with my bold hair. Black dresses, once too predictable, now felt modern and striking against the pop of color. Even metallic accessories, silver earrings or a gold scarf pin, took on a whole new life. It was as if my hair had become the ultimate accessory, unlocking styles I had never considered before. And it wasn't just about color. My attitude toward clothing changed too. I found myself gravitating toward statement pieces, a tailored jacket in emerald green, a silk scarf patterned with bold prints, a pair of shoes that sparkled just enough to catch the light. I wasn't dressing to hide anymore. I was dressing to express. Fashion became fun again, a way to play, to experiment, to send little messages about who I was and who I was becoming. Friends began to notice. "You look different, more alive," one said. But what she really meant was that I was embracing style not as a set of rules, but as a celebration. The purple hair had opened the door to a new kind of freedom, and I was walking right through it. Of course, not everyone saw it that way. Some people thought I was trying too hard or stepping outside of what was appropriate. But that didn't stop me. If anything, their resistance only made me lean into my choices more. Because style, at any age, should never be about permission. It should be about joy. And yet, with every bold step I took, the voices of criticism and judgment grew louder. How would I handle those who believed my choices were too daring, too different, or simply too much? Of course, with every bold choice comes resistance. The first time I walked into a community gathering with my purple hair, I could feel the quiet whispers behind me. A woman leaned over to her friend and murmured, "At her age?" Another person chuckled softly, as though my hair was some sort of joke. For a split second, those words stung. I could feel the old doubts creeping back. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've gone too far. But then I remembered why I had chosen this color in the first place. Purple wasn't about pleasing anyone else. It was about expressing myself. And when I looked around the room, I realized something important. The people who judged me were reflecting their own fears, not mine. Their discomfort wasn't about my hair. It was about the fact that I dared to do what they never allowed themselves to try. The truth is, society often puts older women in a box.
We're told to dress appropriately, to fade into the background, to accept that vibrancy belongs to youth. But why should joy and creativity have an expiration date? Why should we surrender color, boldness, or individuality just because of the number on our birthday cake? That's not living, that's shrinking. So instead of defending myself, I chose to smile. When someone said, "Purple is a bit much, don't you think?" I answered calmly, "Not for me." And that simple reply became my shield. I learned that I didn't need to argue or explain, I just needed to own my choices. Over time, something interesting happened. The very same people who criticized me began to soften. A few even asked privately where I had it done. Some admitted they admired my courage. And slowly, I realized that by facing criticism with grace, I was breaking down stereotypes, not just for myself, but for other women watching from the sidelines. Because the real victory wasn't proving them wrong. The real victory was proving to myself that I could live unapologetically. And that realization led me to the heart of this journey, the bigger lesson purple hair had to teach me about life, freedom, and embracing change. Looking back, I realized that coloring my hair purple was never just about hair. It was about permission. The permission to live boldly, to try something new, and to refuse to let age define what I could or couldn't do. Every strand of purple became a symbol of freedom, a reminder that my story is still being written and that joy doesn't retire when you turn 60. The lesson was simple but powerful. Change is possible at any age. Too often, women over 55 are told to settle, to choose safety over adventure, to stop experimenting with beauty, fashion, or lifestyle. But what I discovered is that embracing something unexpected, whether it's a daring haircut, a bright lipstick, or yes, purple hair, can spark a ripple effect that touches every part of your life. It makes you stand taller, laugh louder, and dream bigger. And here's the truth: people will always have opinions. Some will cheer you on, some will raise their eyebrows, and others will criticize. But in the end, none of that matters as much as how you feel when you look in the mirror. Do you see someone alive, someone who hasn't stopped evolving? That's the only reflection that counts. What started as a playful experiment became a declaration of self-worth. My purple hair taught me that it's never too late to reinvent yourself, to rediscover the parts of you that may have gone quiet, and to inspire others simply by living authentically. If one woman sees me walking down the street and thinks, maybe I could try something bold too, then every stare, every whisper, every dye stain on my hands will have been worth it. Because at the end of the day, life after 60 isn't about retreating, it's about rising. It's about embracing the colors, the styles, the choices that make your heart beat faster. And if purple is the color of freedom and joy for me, then maybe your color is waiting for you too. Which brings me to the final part of this story, how I wrapped up this journey, what it left me with, and why I believe every woman deserves her own version of purple. When I first sat down in that salon chair, I had no idea how much one bold decision would change me. I thought I was simply coloring my hair, but what I really did was color my life. Every glance in the mirror, every laugh from my granddaughter, every curious smile from a stranger reminded me that purple hair wasn't just a style, it was a statement. It said, I'm still here, I'm still vibrant, and I'm still evolving. Looking back, the journey wasn't just about reactions, though they were unforgettable. It was about rediscovering myself. My family's laughter turned into admiration. Strangers' stares became conversations. And my own doubts transformed into confidence I hadn't felt in years. For too long, society whispers to women over 55. Stay quiet, dress modestly, fade gracefully. But fading isn't living. Choosing purple was my way of saying that beauty, style, and energy don't have an expiration date. The truth is, hair has power. The right hairstyle can brighten your face, lift your spirit, and even make you look 10 years younger. Not because of vanity, but because confidence radiates youth. That's why I encourage every woman watching this to consider, what's your version of purple? Maybe it's a chic new haircut, a daring outfit, or a bold lipstick you've been afraid to wear. Whatever it is, know this: you deserve to feel radiant, ageless, and confident. And don't worry about the critics, they will always exist, but their opinions are nothing compared to the joy you feel when you take ownership of your choices. At the end of the day, living authentically is the most stylish thing a woman can ever do. So, if my story of purple hair has sparked even a little curiosity in you, hold on to that feeling. Don't dismiss it. Explore it. Let yourself imagine how freeing it would be to try something unexpected. Because if I can do it, so can you. Before you go, I'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe to this channel for more conversations on youthful hairstyles for older women, fashion tips after 60, and confidence-boosting lifestyle inspiration. I promise you, this space is about more than beauty. It's about celebrating life at every stage with elegance and joy. And remember this: purple may fade over time, but the courage it awakened in me will never wash out. That's the gift I want to leave with you, because your own vibrant chapter is still waiting to be written.